The third demo is ransomware and extortion. So ransomware is where you get breached like that. Typically, a threat actor's gotten access to your machine, and then they download ransomware, and then they execute that. Previously, a few years back, that would just be on your one machine. But what the threat actors do these days is break into all of your machines, get access to everything, and actually deploy ransomware on all of the systems, shutting down your entire organization in an instant because it encrypts everything that you've got. What happens then is extortion. So typically what they do is they steal your corporate data first. They encrypt all of your machines so that you're in a very, very difficult position, and then they start extorting you. And typically that would be in the range of $3 to $10 million. We've seen them go up to $100 million in some cases. So what a lot of people don't know is, or they haven't experienced ransomware. So what we're going to do is actually go and execute some ransomware on this machine. And this is a real world ransomware that we've downloaded. So this particular one's called Dharma. And in this case, you can see all of the links on my desktop here. You can see the files in my downloads folder. You can also see the shortcuts on my desktop. When I run this ransomware, so through that threat actor who we broke into this machine through the Firefox link, they then download the ransomware and execute it. And you can see now within seconds, all of our files have been encrypted. You can even see even the shortcuts have been encrypted. And then we've popped up with this box saying all of your files have been encrypted. You now have to contact the threat actors via this email. They've given you this ID, which is basically your breach ID, to be able to, for the threat actors to be able to identify things like how many systems they've encrypted, how many files they've encrypted, and therefore ultimately define, how much they're going to extort you for. So they give you some helpful links around things like how to buy Bitcoins, and some recommendations. Don't rename the files, don't try and decrypt your data, those sort of things. But basically at this point, without the decryption key or the decryptor, this machine is basically dead, right? You're not going to be able to get your files back unless you're very, very lucky. But in most cases, you're not going to get your files back. And you then have to either look at restoring from a backup, or you have to then start negotiating with the threat actor to pay their extortion. Okay, so what happens, as I mentioned, the threat actors tend to, before they deploy the ransomware, they tend to steal the data from your organization. So you'll see on here, this is a graph showing the data leaving the organization. You can see the normal amount of data leaving the organization. The breach happens, they then steal the data, and you can see this massive spike of data just leaving the organization. And this can be, in some cases, terabytes of data that, in this case, they're uploading to this mega site, which is called mega file uploads, which is quite common to just send all of the data out to. The threat actor then downloads it from that website, and then they start publishing it on the dark web. So what is the dark web? The dark web is basically like a hidden internet. You access the dark web through the Tor network, and typically these days that's done through a Tor web browser. So it's like a special web browser. You can't get to the dark web through your standard web browser. You actually have to have a Tor web browser that connects to Tor, and it's sort of like VPNing into your corporate network, right, from home. So it's like you're VPNing into the dark web so that you can access all of these private dark web websites. And so the dark web has a whole bunch of different things, and one of those is hacking groups, extortion websites, credit cards, marketplaces where you can buy, stolen credit cards and personal information and those sort of things. And so the reason why criminals use the dark web is because they want to remain anonymous. So basically what the dark web does is bounces around thousands of machines inside the Tor network so that where you're coming from is anonymous. And so when you're accessing sites through the dark web, criminals can hide where they're coming from, and they may appear to come out of Australia or the UK or the US or China or Russia or wherever they happen to come out of. And that way they can hide, their identity to do these criminal activities.